So what I need to do now is once I've got my Photoshop image ready for my album cover, I'm going to file and save that. I'm going to save that as a JPEG. We can just go to file and save, and this is going to go into my album covers folder. So I have a folder ready for it, so everything's in one place. And then go to JPEG, album cover 1 is fine, and click on save. Make sure the maximum quality is selected and click OK. Once you've saved that, then we can place that into Adobe Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just zoom out. You can see that I've got my bits and pieces in there. I've got the screenshot and I've got my triangles that I made. You could delete those if you wanted to. I'm just going to move them to one side because they might come in handy later. And I've got my the square that I drew as well. I'm just going to colour that in with a black line, give that a black line so I can see it. And there we go. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in that image. So I've got my A3 Illustrator page. I'm going to File. I'm going to go to Place, and then I'm going to go and find my album covers folder. There we go. I'm going to find my album cover 1. There it is, and then I'm going to go to Place. It imports it, and there we have it. Okay, so that's my JPEG image that I created in Photoshop. So bring that in and lay it on the page. I'm going to just move that square to one side for now. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check for the right size. So it needs to be 280 by 280. So when you select the image, up at the top here, you should be able to see the width and the height. So they're about 279.993. So it is close to 280. It's changed slightly. So I'm going to type in 280 into 280. Ooh, make sure that's right. 280, and then press. Let me try again. I'm going to select the whole thing this time, millimeters as well, and press OK. There we go. So the width and the height, 280 by 280. So that's the size of my album cover. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is to go back to my original cover in PowerPoint and have a quick look at that. If that will show up. There it is. So I've got the word home here. I've got Manic Tree Peaches. I'm going to change that from Manic Tree Peaches to my own band. So just a quick look at the text. Right. So first of all, home. So first of all, I'm going to type in the word home, all capitals, and then I'm going to stretch that out, make it a bit bigger. Hold down the shift when you do that, and there we go. Now the position of my triangle is not quite right for my design. I could make, if I make it a bit smaller, that'd be fine. But if you wanted to, obviously, to move the triangle, you'll have to go back into Photoshop to do that. Well, that's okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to manipulate the text. I'm going to obviously go to type and font, choose the right font that I like. Obviously, go through all the fonts, choose something nice and simple. Close to the font that you've got in PowerPoint. Obviously, you could check what font that is and make it the same, or you could obviously have an experiment and a bit of a play with fonts, but keep it relatively simple. I'm happy with that. In my other example here, you can see that I've also played around with the text a little bit just to make it a bit more interesting. So I've put a square inside there because I'm using shapes. Could be the triangle for that, and I've just made it a bit more interesting. To do that, copy and paste it, and then if I take that back to black, and then obviously, you should know this by now. If you copy and paste that, that's editable text. Copy and paste it, right click on it and create outlines, and then right click on it again and ungroup, and then you can obviously play around with the text. I'm going to play around with, first of all, the spacing of the letters a little bit. the kerning. I'm going to bring them a little bit closer together. You could make them touch. In fact, I quite like that. So I'm going to make them touch. The E and the M, the middle of the O, I'm going to take that out. So I'm going to click on the direct selection tool, delete, delete. And seeing as I've got my kind of triangle kind of thing going on, I'm going to draw a triangle. So click, 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 click. Remember, if you move that, then it will eventually find, there it is, the center, make a perfect triangle. And I'm going to use that as my center. And you can do whatever you want. Obviously, try not to copy me. Do something that's linked to your band somehow, some kind of theme. It could be that you have a rough line go through it, or you could chop out part of the letters or move them, make them bigger, or do something just to make it a bit more interesting. So I'm going to move that to one side. I'm going to copy and paste that, and then I'm going to put that in. And obviously need to make that all white, but I need to select the triangle, select my circle, which is the letter, and use the pathfinder to punch out, so minus the front. Select that and then make that white. Yeah, I like that. It's just a little, you've manipulated the text yourself. You haven't just relied on typing out the text. Made it a little bit more interesting. You can see on my other version here, I've got the name of my band. You could base it on your name. You could use your name or part of your name or your nicknames, and that might make it a bit more personal. I'll just use this called West 1. Again, I've manipulated the text, make it more interesting. So it's like a little band logo. You can spend as much time or as little time as you want on that. It's completely up to you. So obviously that's changed a little bit from my original. In my original, I've got Manic Street Preachers down the side here, and I've changed the layout of that. Obviously, if I wanted the name to come down here, then obviously I can manipulate the text to make that come down here. Do whatever you like, use whatever layout you want, but I would use your own name for the band, and be creative, come up with your own thing rather than relying on something that already exists. A little bit of word about spacing and type. You can see that what I've decided to do is have this down on the bottom right hand corner there. It could go up here, but you can see that the balance doesn't work as well. I've got home up here in the top left. That works better down here. It might work better if it's larger, but I don't want it to encroach onto the shoulder, so I'm going to make it smaller. Spacing, the spacing between the end of the one and the edge of the record sleeve and the bottom of the one and the bottom of the record sleeve are about the same, so there's a nice balance there. I've aligned it to the bottom of the sleeve and the edge of the sleeve here. There's lots of black space there. It balances out again with the word home up here. The word home is quite close to the top of the record sleeve, as you can see there, but because of the triangle I haven't got that much space to play with unless I move the triangle in Photoshop and then import it back in again. And obviously what I'm doing with that is I'm aligning that to the edge of the triangle. It could go right to the edge, so if I group that as well, it'll be easier to move around. Could go right to the edge. I could align the H with the point right at the corner there, but again, look for balance. You might move it in a little bit. The gap between, make sure there's always a space between your typeface, your lettering, and the edge of the sleeve, because we're going to be cutting that and printing it and cutting it out. You very rarely find text that will go right to the edge of the sleeve. Obviously you can play around with different versions, so if I'm happy with that, but I'm not sure, obviously you can copy and paste it, move that to one side. We're just using this as a scrapbook, and obviously you can have a go at manipulating the text, putting it in different places. So have a little play with the layout again. You don't have to settle for what you came up with in your PowerPoint's ideas. You know, they're kind of like rough ideas in a way. You can see I'm trying to manipulate that so that's in line. You know, if you are going to put it in, align it with something, make sure it's accurate. So yeah, that the gap's okay there. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, that works. Okay, that kind of works. There is balance. The home on the left balances out with the west one on the right hand side. I'm quite happy with that. Okay, so that's the first stage, is to get the text all set up in Illustrator onto your photographic image. Next thing to do is to set up the sides, or set up the sleeve ready for printing. So the first thing we're going to do with the rectangle tool is we're going to click on the top left hand corner of the sleeve, click, and I'm going to create a 15mm by 280mm rectangle. You can see that's created a rectangle there. And what I'm going to do with that rectangle is I'm going to use the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to select the colour on the album which is directly next to it. So in this case it'd be this dark green. Now you can choose that from different areas. It could be black, but in this case, yeah, I'm going to go for the side of the record. It depends what colour your record is, cover is. Then what I'm going to do, hold down the shift and pull it out to the left, and hold down the shift again and come back in, and when it intersects, when it locks into place on the edge of the record sleeve, I'm going to let go. Now what that's going to be is that's going to fold. It's going to be a fold there, and it's going to be a piece of coloured card which will fold backwards to create the sleeve, and we're going to glue the back of the sleeve onto that little flap. What I'm going to do first of all now is just select the whole thing, use my nudge keys, the arrow keys, the cursor keys, and nudge that towards, almost towards where the print almost to where the print tiling is, the dotted line which tells us where the printer will print to. And we need one of these the other side. So I'm going to hold down Alt, Control and Shift on the keyboard at the same time. I'm going to click on my rectangle and drag it to the right. And what that does is creates a copy. Hold down the Shift and then drag it out. Hold down the Shift and then drag it back in. And then when it intersects, look, I'm going to let go. Again, if your cover's a different colour the other side, use the eyedropper tool just to pick another colour. We won't see that, it'd be folded, but it just means that we won't have any white showing down the edge of the cover. It will become clear, a bit clearer later on. Then I'm going to select that, I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm going to rotate it around 90 degrees, hold down the shift to get 45-90 degrees, and I'm going to move it into place. Use my zoom tool and my move tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it out and then move it back in. When it intersects there with the center in the bottom, I let go. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that so that it's just inside print tiling. Again, it's just a little tab. In this case, I'm going to use the eyedropper again, and I want that to be black, same color as my kind of shirt. And there we go. Zoom out, use my move tool, and that's the front cover ready to print. The next thing I'm going to do is the back cover. Set that up. Now for that I'm going to use my square that I created earlier, which should be 28 or 280 by 280. Or you could just draw another one. So let's just draw another one. So rectangle tool, click anywhere, 280 by 280, and there we have it. And then the back of the record sleeve is going to be just one rectangle. Okay. Now for the back of the record sleeve, I'll show you an example. All I've done in this example is I've used the same photograph again in a slightly different way. I've kind of zoomed in on the photograph and I've used a cutaway. I've kind of cut away the side of my face here. I've just used this kind of part here, and all I've done is just use the rectangle on this this idea in a slightly different way on the back there. If you do want to create rectangles or things that are transparent, then you obviously just draw a rectangle and then it fills in white or whatever color you want. And then if you go to transparency, which is on the color palette, so if I get rid of that and that, if I went to window, color, it is here, transparency, opacity, and then take that down. You can see that that adjusts the opacity. The opacity is how clear or how not clear an image is, and you can do that with any shape or any text or anything pretty much in Illustrator that you draw. So we need to make this look more like a record cover, a record sleeve. So you can see that what I've done, I've got a barcode, I've got a record label, I've got some text which is about copyright, and I've got the track listing as well on the back there. So let's do something similar to this on here. So what I'm going to do is, I could go do this in Photoshop, but I'm not. I'm going to use Illustrator. So I'm going to copy my my image again, copy and paste it. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out so I can make this larger. Make it quite big. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the square that I drew, right click, arrange, bring to front. I'm going to put it onto the front of my cover image and then go to white to make the white line, and I'm just going to use that as a kind of viewer, and I'm going to find a kind of a layout kind of that I'm happy with. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of them at the same time, right click, make clipping mask, and there you go. Now you can manipulate that image inside the clipping mask if you want. You double click on the image and then move it around. It will move around inside the square that you drew. So if you want to play around with it and get it into position that you, I want to see my face a bit more, and I like the fact that the line goes off. There we go. There we go. I'm happy with that. And then double click again on the background, and then that's it. Move it into place. We're going to print this on two separate pieces of A3 paper. So we're going to mess around with that a bit later on. All I need to do now is type out my text, and I'll get my logo on there, copy and paste that in. I could get copy and paste that in as well. I'll just use the ones I already have on my other cover just to speed that process up. I'm going to delete that. Obviously you just type out the track listings. You can make it up. I've got 4 tracks. You could have 2 or 3, it doesn't really matter. And if you use the same logo again, so I'm going to copy and paste that onto the front. This time I'm going to bring it around so that it's horizontal. Zoom in, and again just play around with the layout. I'm going to make sure that my text is lined up. I'm going to make sure it's a little bit smaller because it doesn't touch, so it doesn't touch the white of the line there. Zoom in. This is where detail matters, so I'm just going to nudge it to the left a little bit. Well, that's fine like that. So I'm going to line it up with the other H of home. That text, by the way, is that green color because I've selected it, and then I have chosen the eyedropper, and then I've clicked on my image, and it will give me a color for my image. You can see there, I want it nice and, yeah, that's cool. Oh, that's kind of greeny color. Same with the text down here. Now the text down here, which is all the copyright kind of stuff, which makes it look a bit more realistic. All I've done is gone onto the internet, and I've looked at record CD sleeve copyright info that I copied in, and then find an image that you can read. that's clear. See there's quite a few here. You'll be able to find that, or you might be able to use a CD or a record that you've got at home for this. And I've just typed it out into Illustrator. And also for the logo, the record company logo, obviously you just click on an image, right click, copy image, and then you can obviously just paste that in to Illustrator. Sometimes they come in quite big, as you can see there. Hold down the shift, reduce that in size, and obviously get that onto your cover. And I did exactly the same thing with the barcode as well. So the barcode and the logo are just images that I've copied and pasted from a Google search. So let's just change this text to a different color I'm happy with. For the text, for the copyright and distribution and all the rights reserved kind of thing, what I did is when you copy and paste the text, so select all, Control A, Control C, and then when you click the text tool, you click and drag. Let me just show you. You click and drag, and you create a text box. Paste the text in, and what that will allow you to do, it will allow you to basically have a bit more control over the layout of the text within a paragraph kind of box. So in this case, if I move the box look, it will change the layout of the text. Again, layout is important. I'm aligning. If I hold down shift and pull that, I've aligned the edge of that text with my my list there, my track listing. I've looked at the space around where the logo and the barcode is. I made sure that's the same on the left here that it is on the bottom, not too close to the edge of the record sleeve. I've read my text. When you're in paragraph mode, if you go to paragraph at the top here, you can your text might hyphenate, which means that it might break up longer text. It hyphenates it so that part of the, if I can get it to do it, there you go, it says unor and then thorized on the other line. If it does that, it doesn't read very well. So click on paragraph and hyphenate, untick that box, and it will unhyphenate it, so it will read a lot better. You can also, obviously with paragraph, play around with the layout of the text. If you want it centered, if you want it lined right, if you want it lined left. You can also, obviously with character, if we go to character, you can play with the leading, so the space between the lines of text. So I want mine quite close together. You could obviously play around with the tracking. You can also play around with the kerning as well, and you can also play around with the font size. Obviously, probably the leading and the font size will be enough for you. You might obviously go to zoom in, have a quick read, make sure it makes sense, and then obviously, you know, once you're happy with it, which I am, obviously then it's ready, or pretty much ready, to print. To do that, we're going to print it on 2 sheets of A3. You go to File and go to Print. Make sure you print settings on color. So if you go to Print, then you want to go to Setup and Preferences, and make sure you're on A3 Landscape Color, okay, which you should be already if you set that up already. And then obviously go to Print, and then what you need to do then is you can do this in a number of ways, but the easiest way is to just grab everything and move that down. You might want to group it while you're there, Control G, and then obviously move your back cover. So you printed your front cover, move your back cover onto the page, and then print that as well. And that's it. So you should end up with a front cover design and a back cover design in Illustrator, ready to print, ready to make your album sleeve covers. obviously you're going to do that 3 times. You need to end up with 3 covers. Your back cover, you might use the same layout every time. So you might use all you might do is change the image and use the same layout of the text. But if the layout of the text doesn't fit with the image, then obviously you might need to change it. But don't change the typefaces, don't change the fonts, don't change the record label. Use everything the same. Use your little logo that you've developed for your band, for the name of the record. Make sure they're the same also. So on my other one, I've actually, there you go, you can see there's a second version there. So you might find that you only need to use Photoshop quickly to manipulate the photographs from PowerPoint. You might find you need to do a bit more with that if you want to create layers, make it look like things are going through your face and through your head, etc. Depends on your design. Okay, I hope that's explained it all. Have a go, see how you get on, and hopefully create some fantastic album cover designs.